Hey guys, I wanted to make a quick screencast here and just go over something I was working on today. I put a mailer on my website so that people can shoot me a quick email from my website if they're on here and they want to say hi. It's something that I've implemented before, and frankly, it's never really been that difficult per se. There's a lot of documentation out there on how to go about doing something like this. However, this is my first application in which I've deployed to DigitalOcean and done the deployment from scratch. And so I ran into a few differences. I wouldn't say like complications or things that were like overly difficult. It was just kind of a different process. So I wanted to make a quick video and share that with you guys and kind of go about it. And as always, all of this code is like open and free to take or share if it helps you in a project that you're doing. So if you ever want to use an SMTP server to send email and using ActionMailer, like feel free to take this code off of my GitHub and use it. So yeah, let's get started. This is the form, so it's just a regular Rails form. It just requires like you put in a name and an email, and this is going to be from example.com, not even a real email, and it's just going to be to my future self. So hey, future lol, your mailer is working smashingly. Perfect. Cheers. So yeah, essentially like all we want to do is click say hello, and then this button's going to be disabled and we should get an email. So go ahead and click that, and I should be receiving an email here shortly. And if you heard that ping, that's actually my email coming through on my phone. So that's awesome. Great, it works. And I actually have my email open here. Cool. Hey, future lol, your mailer is working smashingly. Yeah, it is. Great. So let's take a look at the code and see how we went about this, and yeah, take a look at it a little bit more closely. So this is just our regular old Rails form here. Nothing crazy happening there, so no need to spend any time on that. This is the AJAX call that's taking the information out of the form and sending it to the backend, specifically at this route /mail. So if we take a look at our routes actually, when you go to a post request to mail, it hits the mailer controller and hits this contact mailer method. So we're clicking the button, which we've given an ID of say hello, and making sure to prevent that default action, serializing the form data from the form and saving it into this variable. And then we are sending a post request to this URL, which we just looked at in our route, with this data equal to the variable that we set on line 5 there. On the successful completion there, I was just console logging. So actually, if we take a look inside console, you can see that we do get that good things message plus some information from the backend, which I was using to just make sure that things were working. Probably shouldn't have put that to production, but hey, tomato, tomato, I'll get rid of that on my next deployment. So yeah, that's the positive side. The negative side is just saying not so good. Should probably have some good like error messaging in there for the user. That's definitely something I'm going to add in the next iteration here. And then also changing the value of the button to sent and making it disabled so that you can't click the button anymore. Cool. So that's the AJAX part of it. And you stay on the page, which is nice. I'd like to actually probably implement like a modal that pops up and says like, hey, your email was sent. But let's take a look at the controller action. So once that hits the root /mail, excuse me, and is directed to the mailer controller, it hits this contact mailer method, which then takes the information from the form out of the params. So it sets these values to these keys in this mail info hash. So name is equal to name, email, email, and body equal to the params body, etc. So then it takes that hash as an instance variable and passes it over to the user mailer class method admin contact and passes that hash in. So let's take a look at the admin contact method on the user mailer class. The only thing I want to point out is that I do have deliver now on here. You can also set deliver later So let's say I was, instead of rendering just text down here, I was actually maybe like redirecting to like another page or rendering a view or something of that nature that, was required you going to another URL. You don't want to hold this render up by delivering now. You can also deliver later and allow the method to complete and go to like that next URL or whatever view you want to go to, so that you're not holding up your whole application. Not so much in this case because it's an AJAX request, and you can hit deliver now, and it's not going to change the user experience here. So cool. Let's take a look at the admin contact method on the user mailer class. So user mailer is inheriting from application mailer, and we have this method called admin contact. You can also set a default from, which will allow any email that goes out from the user mailer class to have this default from being equal to lowell@example.com. So when we take a look at where the mail came from, this right here, like when I go to hit reply, it's going to go to lowell@example.com. Cool. So all that's doing is taking that mail info hash that we passed it before, and simply just call mail and pass it these options here. So to the email address to which you're sending it. So for me, I'm the only admin, and that admin will always be my email. So right now I'm using my Gmail email. That could be changed dynamically with some easy code that you can kind of field as the situation comes up. The subject is always going to be the mail info name for me, plus these two pipes and the mail info email. So I know who sent the email, and their information. So the subject will always be their name that they put here, the two pipes, and whatever email they send it from. So I know who to reply to. And then the body is whatever message they send. And then this part's important. Set your content type to text or HTML. And if you want any information on ActionMailer, definitely take a look at the docs for ActionMailer. They're really, really well written. It gives you everything in like the first like 1/3 of the page on how to get up and running. And just like most things with Rails, it's as easy as like a command to generate an ActionMailer class here. That was a scaffolding I just highlighted. That's not what you want, but yeah, check these out. This is what got me going for the first time, and it's super, super easy to follow. I wish I could find, where is it here? Yeah, read through it. The Rails documentation is great. So, not to beat a dead horse there. Anyway, let's move on now to implementing it actually on the server side. So, in the environment here, now you could put this in, let's say like you're just working in development, like you could throw this in your development environment. I just put it in my environment RB located in the config file because it's going to be used in both development and production for me. So it was a good place to put it. And essentially what you want to do is set your SMTP settings to the specific things that you need if you're using Mandrill, like I am, or any SMTP server API. So I guess I should also show you the gem file. I'm using the Mandrill API, and I am setting the username equal to an environment variable, which I'll show you in a second how to set that server side. And then I'm setting password also to this environment variable, and then the domain which it's coming from, which is always going to be my http www.lowellmower.com, and then this address, the smtp.mandrillapp.com, that's something that they give you, which you just hardcode as the address. And then port 587, you can also use port 25 or 2525 for production. And then your authentication set to plain and enable startles. That's not a real word, but that's how they spell it. auto to true. So all of this is actually really well documented in the docs for Mandrill. And let me see if I can find those real quick. I won't spend too much time hunting those down because if you're actually using the API, they do end up pretty much right in your face. So yeah, I'll let you find those. Maybe I'll post a note in the comments about where to find that. But anyway, super easy to set up. The only like reasonably confusing part about all of this is setting your environment variables. So let's quickly pop into our server. So we'll SSH into the server and CD into our application. And we'll take a look at, actually we don't even need to go into the application. We can just take a look at all of our dot files here. Excuse me. So you have two places you could set your environment variables. You can either set it in your dot profile if you have that, or your bash rc file. Some of you might, if you're working only locally, have just a bash profile. But right now, my dot profile is actually taking in my bash rc file. So I will open that up here and show you. Oops. Quit that. Bash rc. So in here, you'll want to set your environment variable like this. I'm not going to show you my actual environment variables because I don't want to have to like code that out and change it, etc. But this is how you would want to set it. So you'd actually just put export in front of it and do it like that. Yeah. Cool. So we'll get out of here. And if you're working locally, so let's say you're in your local development environment, if you've never set an environment variable before, well, you know what? Maybe that's something I'll cover in another video. That's a really good topic because I've already been kind of rambling about some other stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much how you would implement a mailer on your project that's in a live environment. You just really making the connection between the environment variables for your live production environment, and setting those equal here is the real key. So cool. I hope this was helpful. You can find all the code on GitHub if you need to copy pasta. And otherwise, thanks for watching, guys.